And we're back.
Yay.
It's Marriage Matters. It's season 3. It's been a while. I'll be honest, quite a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Although this is Marriage Matters, it's worth spending a few minutes talking about some of the changes, where we've been, what's gone on, and that kind of stuff. There's an advert coming up in 10 minutes. So here's the thing. Marriage Matters has got a brand new format. So it used to be like 30, 35 minutes, didn't it? And we kind of broke it up. But now we're going for 30 minutes, and every segment is 10 minutes.
10, 10, 10. That's 30, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow. You can see where the kids get their math skills from. The idea being that it's easy for you to listen in pieces. So rather than needing to listen to a 30-minute thing, you can listen to a 10-minute segment and then another 10 segment.
You can't say it, can you?
No. 3 10-minute segments.
It all seems so simple when we were talking about it
It was
beforehand.
easy writing it down. So that's what's happened to Marriage Matters. We have been away since September, October.
Yeah, so we haven't done a Marriage Matters in 2023. So this is the first of 2023.
And a lot has happened, I'll be honest, since we actually had a little pause. We were having a little pause at the end of a season, and then all sorts of really good things happened. So the other thing that I wanted to just talk about in this first segment is the website has changed. Which is really important for you because it's much better for you if you're listening and watching. So Marriage Matters is mostly an audio podcast.
Yeah.
And you can also watch it. But BerryBunch.family was our website address, which still works.
Yeah.
But now there's BerryBunch.org. Which is a newfangled website that we launched at the start of the year, which is actually very exciting because it means it's really super easy for you to view a video, to download one to your computer. Everything we make is free for you to use. If you want to use this in your church marriage guidance group, you can download a video and play it.
Yeah.
And it'll be high quality and there'll be no adverts.
Yeah, brilliant.
We've worked in ministry, we've worked in churches. We know what adverts do. They destroy the atmosphere. So if you download from our website, one, it's really easy to do. And the second thing is it's really good quality.
Yes. So should we get on with our theme of this?
Yes.
And this is your idea. So I'm going to leave it to you to explain what it's all about. It's downtime, isn't it? Downtime, which is time that you have down.
Yes. You know, it's really good because we do lots of radio work now, which is kind of exciting. But it means that when I go for a mug, I know that Joe's going to talk. Because when we started in the radio, I didn't know if Joe was going to pick up that I actually need a drink. Whereas now if I go for a drink, I don't have to say, keep talking. Because I know she's going to. It's super exciting. ConnectRadio.com every Sunday, 3 till 6. And I cover lots of other shows as well. So, downtime. Now, we have covered lots on the idea of date night. We've talked about the idea of being together as a couple. And if you want to go back, look at the old episodes, listen to them, go off and do that. There's a specific one we did called date night. Now, this is not like rehashing date night. This is something different because this is more like an all-encompassing topic. Because when you're thinking about downtime, it can mean lots of things. It can mean date night, but it can also mean sitting down at the end of the day, having a meal.
Yeah.
Because that's downtime. And what does downtime mean to you? So the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of define what we're talking about in terms of let's just use the phrases uptime and downtime. So just because it's easy.
Just making this stuff up.
Well, I normally do. So uptime is your work. It's all the things that you have to do. So it's working, it's paying your taxes, it's going to the tip. Things that have to be done that you wouldn't necessarily choose to do, but you have to do if you want to buy food.
Yeah.
And then everything else for the purpose of this next 30 minutes is downtime.
Yeah.
It's the time that you actually have to choose what you want to do.
Do you say rest time, relaxing time, or just
free
time?
Yeah, but we titled it downtime now.
Oh, yeah, but, I was just trying to explain it.
Well, yeah.
Free time, isn't it? Time that's yours, it's free.
Yes.
Available. Space.
Yes. But it's those restful times. And actually what we're thinking about this week, obviously this is Marriage Matters. Everything we do is looking at the idea of a Bible-based marriage, a marriage from God's perspective. What's God's perspective on downtime? And we wanted to look at some of the struggles that married couples will have. How much time do you spend in a church? How much time are you doing in ministry? Are you there every night helping out with the youth group, and you're there with the men's group on a Saturday morning, and you're painting the church, and then your wife's out at the ladies group, and there's all these groups we can get involved in, and that's really good. But church is not as important as a marriage, and I think that's something that we need to say, and I will keep on saying it.
Yeah, we've got some scriptures later on to talk about time. But, when you become a Christian, your time isn't yours, is it? It belongs to God. So we pray about things in life, but maybe sometimes we don't pray enough for our downtime. We just sort of go, oh, great, I'm free, I'll do whatever.
We do it with money, don't we?
We should pray about everything, really.
We've got the money, we can afford it, so I'll buy that. did God want you to do that? If you haven't got the money, you're going to pray, Lord, I want to do this. Is this your will? If you have the money, it's easy to say, well, I've got the money, therefore it must be God's will. But that's really foolish.
I suppose it's the same with if you've got time, you think, oh, I'll just do this or that. But actually, hang on, hold the phone. Let's check in with God and find out what God wants us to do with this item. We wouldn't go into any job without praying, is this the right job? Is this the right location to live in? And so the same is any downtime that we have. You know, time is precious, isn't it?
If you can't do everything, that means that you can only do some things.
Yeah.
If you can only do some things, then those some things needs to be carefully selected.
Yeah.
And if you need to select what you do with those some things that you can do, need to do, that means going to God.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I've got an evening free, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And actually, let's just touch on when you become a Christian, your time is not yours. Because we glanced over that one like a skimming stone. I think I'm going to circle back because this is another really interesting one. I remember a church where the vicar basically expected every single person in that church to be at the church every single night as much as they could to help and make the church work. And the problem is that's a really stupid mentality, because if you're a vicar, we've been in ministry, we weren't vicars, but we were in ministry. Your job is being in the church, serving at the church. But if your job is not paid for by the church, then you need to look at it slightly differently. And actually, the sad thing was this vicar expected everyone to turn up like he did. But he was paid to be there, and it was their free time, their downtime, their rest time. And I think it's worth just touching on that, because when you become a Christian, Joe said, your time is not your own. I had this long conversation with somebody, and I really agreed with their point, because we talked about volunteers, because that was the last church. And he said, there's no such thing as a volunteer in a church, or there shouldn't be. Because when you commit your life to Jesus Christ, you're getting peace on this earth, you're getting heaven in the next life. And actually, therefore, in this life, there's a consequence to that. And we should be giving our time to God. And actually said we shouldn't be using the word volunteer in church. And I absolutely agree with that, by the way. The word volunteer is very misleading in a church context. Because if that's your church, your spiritual home, which is the biblical version, you should be committed to being there and being part of that congregation. Now, that flies against the face of everything Western. All right. So we have to acknowledge that. That's not culturally comfortable. But that is the biblical way. And the biblical culture has got nothing to do with West or East or capitalism or communism or rich or poor. The biblical culture is God's standard, which existed way before all this stuff happened.
Yeah.
So if you're in a church, you need to lose that mentality of I'm just a volunteer, because you're really, really not. You're not less important than the vicar any more than he's more important than you. As one very wise minister once pointed out, it's about your function. And the function of a vicar is they're paid in order to be freed up in order to have the time.
Yeah.
If you're not paid for the church, you're not freed up. Therefore, you need to choose your time differently.
Yeah, time is precious. I was thinking about, oftentimes young people will say, what was important to me for my parents was spending time with me. We often think, well, I want to give my children what they didn't have and stuff. But time makes people feel valuable. And coming back to marriages, if you take the time to be with your partner, with your wife, your husband, your girlfriend or boyfriend, if you spend that time together, that's you're valuing that person, aren't you? And that's the point of downtime, isn't it? Together as a couple.
Yeah, I scrolled through. I was doing a bit of an experiment. I scrolled through Instagram recently. I wanted to go to about 150 videos. I don't know why. I just wanted to see what is the stuff that's coming up on the screen. And what was fascinating with a number of jokes about marriages, which is really sad. It's always very critical. But there was this recurring theme, and it was always very negative around marriages. And it was always around the husband trying to escape to his golf. And the wife trying to escape for a boozy night out with her friends, and how they didn't want to be together and hang together. And the other one that was really sad was they're both sitting on a settee next to each other, sending each other videos to watch and never actually turning and talking. Yeah. And I don't think that's funny. And I think it's really sad, because I think it's probably quite true. When you see enough of those, you start to think people are actually thinking this way, aren't they? And I think that's quite tragic. That's what we want to look at today. How are we going to support your marriage? What are you going to do? What do you want to invest in marriage today? How important is your relationship with your husband, with your wife, before God? How much time do you want to invest into that? We'll take a little break. This will tell you all about the Berry Bunch. Welcome to the Berry Bunch, BerryBunch.org, our digital home on the internet. You are most welcome here. So, who's the Berry Bunch? Well, there's 5 of us. We live in the UK, and we produce materials for you, for your church, for your family, wherever you are and whenever you are in the world. And we've tried to make this website as simple as possible for you. So you'll find 3 main tabs. The Read tab is stuff that you can read. The Listen tab is stuff that you can listen to. And the Watch tab is stuff you can watch. It's that simple. Have an explore. See what you can find. Everything we make is for free for all. There's no paywalls. You won't suddenly find us disappearing behind one of those. Everything stays free for you. If you like what you find and see, then use it, download it. It's super easy to do. Find a video, scroll to the bottom, click on the download thing, and you can use that in your situation. If you love it, let us know. And if you love it, let others know as well. And the best thing you can do, always put most in, you get the most out. So become part of our worldwide global community. We've got people who support what we do and use it in Nigeria, in America, in the UK, in Finland, all over the world. So join the BerryBunch family, join our community, enjoy what we make. It's always going to stay free for you. Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome back to the second part of Marriage Matters, the theme being Downtime. I keep saying town, Downtime.
We're not singing Downtown. Not a Motown hit.
We talked a bit about, we said our hellos because we've been away for a while, and we've sort of talked a little bit about what downtime is. So now let's talk about
our experience. I
don't know. The two go well. So now let's just look at the scripture, look at what the Bible says, talk about our own experiences. That's the purpose of Marriage Matters, just to remind you that marriage matters, and that's why we talk about it, and we want our marriages to be improved. We know people go on marriage courses, read books and things, and this is really to help us and encourage us to keep moving forward and thinking about the time that we spend when we're not working, when we haven't got to do other things, when we've got a bit of free time. How do we do that as a couple? That's what we're looking at. So what have we got in terms of scripture?
We've got Ecclesiastes. This is a really well-known one. I mean, if you've been at primary school in the last 50 years, you're going to know this bit of scripture because it's really popular for good and bad reasons. But this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. This is the English Standard Version, just because that's what I've got on my phone at the moment, and I couldn't be bothered to move it to something else. It doesn't change the point of it. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of sums it up. Now, not all of that is particularly pertinent to exactly what we're talking about, the topic today. But there are a few that kind of naturally jump out on there. The fact is, everything has a season. There's a time for everything. It doesn't mean to say that everything needs to happen, but everything has its place, everything has its time. And that includes the time you spend with your spouse. And it depends your attitude towards that, which is really important. Do you begrudgingly, I'll sit and watch a film with them, at least they'll be up and with them. You know, that's not time. That's not, you know, when we're talking about marriages and God's perspective, we want to invest into our marriages, because if we don't, they just shrivel up. You know, watering your plants is important. Well, watering your marriage is important. We water our marriages best with time, commitment, investment.
Yeah.
Now, the other one was right down the bottom.
Still in Ecclesiastes.
Still in Ecclesiastes. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. Now, one of the most wonderful things, feelings, experiences I've ever known is in silence, just sitting with Jo, my wife, my best friend. We don't say anything, not because we're in a mood and we've had an argument and we're silent. I mean, literally, we're happy in a good place. and yet we don't have to say anything. That is really, really precious to me, because she's the one person in the world that I don't feel like I need to communicate to vocally in order to communicate with her. So just sitting, sometimes we'll take a flask of tea, we'll drive out to the sea, we'll sit by the sea with a flask of tea, saying nothing, just watching the waves. And those moments are really precious, because you don't need to have communication verbally in order to have communication and investing into your marriage. So hence a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Because at some point I should say, should we go home now? All right. A time to love and a time to hate. Now, we're not suggesting that you should have a time to hate. What the Bible's saying is there are times when we're going to hate people. God doesn't want war either. The next verse 8, the second half of verse 8, he doesn't want war. But there is a time for war. War is going to happen. You look out to Ukraine, you look at all sorts of places. In some ways in the UK, we are at war with one another. I don't say that lightly, loosely, or in a kind of, jocular way. I think we are at war because the Christian nuclear family is under attack. There are lots of people who want to attack that. We are at war. And as Christians, we should expect to have trouble and strife. Not to accept that we have it, but we should expect to have it. Big difference. So there's a time to keep silence, there's a time to speak, there's a time to love and a time to hate. And actually, as Christians, as a married couple, we need to invest in our marriage, because if we don't invest our downtime, all we end up with is passively sitting on the settee, a bit like the joke that I sadly keep on seeing, where this couple are just sending videos to one another and never communicating. That's just really sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems we have with modern societies is we don't have a lot of time. I've spoken to different couples, and they're working sort of opposite shifts to sort of bring the money in. And so time is of the essence, isn't it? There's very little time. And the other problem is perhaps you have things that you want to do, whether there's games you play or sports you do, or certain activities that you want to do that don't include your other half. That can be difficult as well, or perhaps you don't have the same things that you enjoy doing. So it's about compromise as well. So there's the issue of not having much time, so precious time that you have, you want to spend it well, or everybody wants a piece of your time, don't you? Family members, friends, all kinds of things that come in. But also there's the fact that actually, what if you don't particularly like the same things, the same TV programs or, activities? So those are sort of questions to ask, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having different interests. That's good. That's healthy. That's righteous. That's appropriate.
Yeah.
Golf is a joke that I keep on seeing. Yeah, the husband's kind of sneaking out, trying playing golf and lying to his wife about where he is so he can get his golf in. I mean, if you're in that state in a marriage, you're already in a bigger mess than you really want to think about, but never irredeemable with God. But actually, it's good to support each other in different interests and activities. But then how do you do it? If all your downtime is only ever spent playing golf or going shopping, I'm using the stereotypes in these videos I'm looking at, then your marriage really is going to be not in a great place. And it's not about the amount of time either. And that's another interesting point. It's not about I've got 15 hours, I'm going to spend every single second with my wife or my husband. That may not be the most appropriate for you personally. But actually, of the time that you've got, how do you invest it? Is it just liberally, well, I'll sit and watch TV? That's not really investing in your marriage. That's the absence of investing. That's just wasting time. Nothing wrong with films. We love films as a family. We watch many. But we actively watch films because we get involved with the film with each other, with fun and talking about it. And also because it's not all that we do. And actually, how are you going to invest the time that you do have? You don't need to have 10 hours a day with your spouse to build the marriage. Okay. If you've only got 10 minutes a day that you have spare, we've been in those times, what's that 10 minutes going to look like for you? For us, if it's only 10 minutes, then we invest that in each other because that's super important. But if you fritter that 10 minutes away, it can easily be lost.
So you're talking about quality rather than quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that is important, isn't it? Yeah. We can have small amounts of time and it could be something really, really memorable. You can build incredible memories from a very short amount of fun. You could just have a silly sort of game, something comes up. But sometimes we can have our time together. And sometimes, you talked about in the pandemic, couples were together a long time and then arguments happened, didn't they? But as a couple how much time you want to spend or can spend and how you spend that. But you need to pray and think about it and make sure that's what you. And it makes me think about when you first meet someone and you're courting. Oftentimes you will take part in the activities they enjoy, go and watch them play football or this and that. And then when you get married, it's like, well, may not happen quite so much. But you do get couples who play golf together. They play football together, or they'll just support, like you say, support each other in those activities. But it's nice to also find an activity that you both can do. It's worth sort of having a play to have a go at different things, isn't it? We did crazy golf, didn't we, the other week? And that was good fun. Crazy golf's cool.
Yeah, I think it comes down to this idea of what do you want to do with the time that you have for the person that you are stating, declaring your love until death relationship for. If they've got a real passion. I read a wonderful story. It was Jay Parker, who has a blog, Hot, Holy and Humorous. And her husband was, it's probably the wrong sport, I'm English. He was into a big sport. Was it American football, baseball? I don't know, one of those. And she didn't really have that passion. But she actually tried to spend time with her husband by enjoying his passion and discovered, actually, she got very passionate about that too, to the point that she's actually, I think, become more passionate than her husband about his team. And that can happen because when we show interest in the other person, all of a sudden we engage and we invest in that, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're coming up to another break. We're sticking for 10 minutes.
Yes.
We're good at this now.
Well done.
So, here's another video. If you want to know how to support us and what you can do to keep us doing what we're doing, then this will help you. Well, hello there. This is Andy and Joe from the Berry Bunch. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about who we are and where we are going as a ministry, which is kind of exciting. So we are far more than just the 5 people you will frequently see on your screens, whether that's mobiles, laptops, tablets or TVs, whatever. We're all over the place with social medias, but we are far bigger than just the 5 of us. Actually, we are part of a massive family who support the Berry Bunch and make it happen from all around the world, including Tibet. I was quite surprised by that. Tibet, North America, all over the place. Scotland, who knew? Cool. Essex in England. We're English too, so that counts. Where we got Finland, Norway. There's people who are part of this from far afield, so it's not just about us 5 people. And we actually have something called the Council of Elrond, which is a group of people who help advise the Berry Bunch ministry because it's much bigger than we are.
Yeah, and if you'd like to support us and get involved, there are 3 things we were thinking that you could do. You can share or like what we do.
Super important.
Yeah, and get in touch with us, encourage us, and tell us what you think. You can financially support us if you felt that was right. We do have supporters that support us that way because obviously
we've got PayPal or Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can pay in different ways, and we have people who do that because obviously we want to provide this for free for all, and buy the books as well.
Jeez.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than going to a website and you want to get something and you have to then pay for it. There's these like paywalls that get in the way, aren't there? We're not going to do that, not here at Berry Bunch. And the last thing that you could do, and I think the most important, is to pray.
Always the biggest thing you can do is to pray for what we're doing. We're seeing some amazing opportunities, some massive miracles that God's done for our ministry and for this ministry that's actually extending all around the globe, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
From a little bedroom one time that's grown. So yeah, become part of the BerryBunch family community. We will talk back to you. Not at you, but with you. It's always good. But yeah, get involved, get in touch, and become part of the community and what God is doing through this thing that He has honoured us with doing, which is awesome. And we're back. The meaty set. No, the takeaway. We've made a few tweaks, and I'm trying to remember myself. The other thing, by the way, about supporting us is you can do all of that through our website, BerryBunch.org. You don't have to leave the website anymore, which is awesome. BerryBunch.org. Look for support us, and you can help us on that page. So we've been talking today about downtime. How do you quantify downtime? What does that look like to you? For every one of us, it's different. We don't have any kind of separate activities that we would go off and do that take large amounts of time. So we don't have that particular thing or challenge to work out. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you do. If you are into golfing, you are into shopping with the girls, as the stereotypes go, then great, nothing wrong with that. But how do you invest in your marriage? You can't do everything, therefore we can only do some things. If we can only do some things, what those some things are, need taking to God. Don't ever assume I've got lots of money, therefore I'll just do this because that's the right thing to do. You shouldn't spend your money that way. You should pray about it, and you shouldn't spend your time that way because we need to think, how are we going to spend the time that we have?
Yeah, they say time is money. It just goes to show the value and preciousness of time, and how much it means to someone that you spend time. You think about someone who goes and visits someone in hospital and takes that time to be there. That's very precious. And so if you are working hard and long hours and you choose to spend time with your wife or husband, that's going to make them feel really valued and really special. And of course, we have special occasions like birthdays and anniversaries. I mean, I don't know whether you do celebrate Valentine's Day. Some people go big time on it, and you have the archetypal jokes about poor blokes of the night before or on the same day having forgotten Valentine's Day and things like that. We've seen many a programme like that. We're not that
many
bothered.
reality
When we first got married, first were together, we did sort of do Valentine's Day, but we're not so bothered now. We try and do something special on not any day of the week, really, isn't it? Yeah. But, obviously, if it's special to you and it's something that you've chosen to do, then that's another time, isn't it? Special occasions. Yep. We get time off during those times, bank holiday and things like that. So, yeah, we get times to be together. And if you choose to be with your wife or husband, that is really precious, isn't it?
Yep. And here's another one, which I thought was relevant to talk about in this third segment. Because I was thinking about... there's seasons of marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. If children is something that God blesses you with, not everyone is going to be blessed with children, then actually there's a fairly simple kind of rhythm where you get married. Generally, there's a period of time when there's no children, then children are likely to come along. So you've got maybe up to, 25 years worth of having children in the house. By the time the last one's likely to leave, go off to university, get a job, whatever. And then what is... I don't like the phrase empty nesting. It just sounds really horrid, and it just anyway. You have this period when the children aren't there, and if you're not investing in your marriage consistently all the way through that time, when the children leave, there's no marriage. And we've met too many couples where as soon as the children leave, one poor soul, literally the one of the kids turned 18 and the dad said, right, I'm leaving now. I haven't been married to your mum for the last 20 years, but we just thought we'd stick around for you. Absolutely devastated the family because then they couldn't believe them for anything. Yeah. No trust. So actually, if you're not investing in your marriage throughout, then there's nothing left at the end. So don't think we've got kids. That's where every single moment of our time and energy needs to go. Your children will not thank you if you've got a bad marriage because all you've done is invest in them. Your children want to see you have a good marriage. And here's the reason why. It's really important. They want to aspire to something. All right. And if you have a crappy marriage where you only ever invest in the kids and you never go out for date night, you don't hold hands, you don't kiss in front of your kids because they don't like it, what on earth example are you setting for your children or for other people's children? Okay, so I used to hang around with some people when I was little, and so I have some surrogate dads, which are great. And one of them, they didn't have children for a while, and it didn't make a difference because they were so lovely with each other. I wanted a marriage like they had because they lived out their love for one another. They had very different hobbies and interests. He was a biker, good man. That's not something his wife particularly wanted to be involved in. So they had times away, but you knew that they loved each other. And when they were eventually blessed with children by God, it was amazing to see how they were as parents. But if you don't invest in your marriage, please don't wait until your kids leave. I've seen too many marriages where everything is about the children. We've got to get them to this group and that group, and they need to have this. And all your children want to see is you, or the parents, loving each other. Yeah. That is the best example you can give. Not get into every single activity under the sun, flogging yourself silly to make it happen. Yeah. They will appreciate more a marriage that they would want to aspire to more than a family where they get to do whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want to do it. Is this the bit where we sort of say what we're taking away from this subject? And I was just thinking, it's making me really think, because I think sometimes we don't really plan our downtime. It sort of comes upon us, even though we know we're about to finish work and have this free time. And we end up talking a lot together, don't we? But I wonder, actually, we need to pray a bit more to do something more proactive rather than reactive. Do you know what I mean? Like, totally. Because I mean, we've talked about date nights, but actually downtime, I wonder if, for me, the takeaway, I'm thinking I'd like to go away and think about that time and maybe you be a bit more proactive rather than it just sort of falls into our lap and we just kind of do stuff. I mean, spontaneity is great, isn't it? And I absolutely love that. But I think that's what I'm taking away. I'm going to go and think about how I can be more active in my downtime. I think also there's nothing wrong with planning spontaneity. It is less backwards than it sounds.
Yeah.
But if you plan a period of time which is protected, so the classic would be a weekend away with the wife, going out for a meal out and getting a babysitter. Now, those are planned times because you're not just going to get a babysitter and go out for a meal. You're probably going to book a table. You're going to have to book someone to come into your house and look after your children. If you're going away for a weekend, you're going to have to make sure that someone's got your children or the dog's being fed or your milk isn't going to get left on the doorstep. There are things you do that you plan for and you invest in that time, but that should be no different for day to day. And I think it's one of those things where perhaps one of the things I think for me is it's thinking more about those downtimes. I think it's similar to you. My takeaway is downtime kind of happens. You get tired, you get to the end of your day and you're exhausted, you fall down, you have a meal, you collapse on the settee, you stick a film on, fall asleep, go to bed. That's not really investing in a relationship. That's just life happening to you. But we need to be just as proactive in our downtime as we are in our uptime, the work time, things we have to do. And actually, we don't really value, don't take for granted the time that you've got. Please don't take for granted your money. That's more of a given. But don't take your time for given either. Don't take in my case, my wife for given because for granted, because actually I don't have all the time that I want with her. She's changed jobs. She works more hours than she used to. She's not at home as like she used to. So I don't get the time that I used to get. So in some ways I'm in a season where I actually do value having time with you, but it could go the other way. I have more time with you and all of a sudden it seems less important.
Yeah. The phrase that's coming to my mind is investing time. And I think that's really important, isn't it? We invest an awful lot to get good careers, to get better money, to have status, to have position. But we need to invest in our marriages and our relationships to improve our marriage and to improve our witness. And like you say, we have a knock-on effect on the children and people around us. And then we have a much better life and a great time. And God, it will be pleased with us.
Okay, last 90 seconds. Here's my thought.
Yep.
So don't invest in your family so much that you don't invest in your marriage, that your children have nothing to look forward to. If you want your children to get married because you think marriage is good, invest in your marriage. Your marriage is always more important than your children. Now, when you've got a breastfeeding baby, it doesn't become irrelevant, but that breastfeeding child's going to need more of your time. But that's a season that comes and goes, maybe for a year or so, maybe 2 years, but then that fades. That disappears. Your children never become less important. I've had 4 children. I've lost one. She's just important as the 3 lads that we get to be with. And it doesn't change. Here's the thing for me. This is the real takeaway. Invest in your marriage with the time that you've got so that people who see you want a marriage like yours. I don't want to have a marriage like many that I see where the children come first, because those are the houses I want to get away from because I'm exhausted. Invest in your marriage so people come and see your marriage and think, I want that. Because here's the other thing as Christians, this marriage, whole thing, it shines a light on our relationship with Jesus Christ. So if you want people to find Jesus, focus on your marriage, not your kids. They should always come second.
This is serious stuff, isn't it?
This is really serious stuff. It doesn't mean your kids don't matter. It doesn't mean to say if you're breastfeeding that you shouldn't do that. It means your marriage still has to come first. It still has to be the most important thing because it's the reason anything happens thereafter.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another one. We'll be back next week for more.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add? 10 seconds?
No, I can't think of anything else.
Let's look at 10 seconds is ages, isn't it? Thanks for joining us. Do feel free to comment, email us. You can do that all through the website, BerryBunch.org. Stay cool. Bye for now.